How can total wipeout defeat of a nation lead to the ultimate comeback? It's 586 BC. The Babylonian army has burned the holy city to the ground, the temple, the spectacular temple of Jerusalem, destroyed. And the people are being dragged away in chains. For some, Babylon wants to change their name, literally, make them join Babylonian culture, eat the way Babylonians eat, essentially erase this entire nation, defeat the God of Abraham, end the story altogether. But what if this catastrophe is the key to survival? Babylon means exile of the Jews and so much more. Welcome to Classical Kingdoms, where timeless stories reveal truth and wisdom for your journey. This journey is for you and Babylon, the Babylonian Empire, which you've already seen in Lesson 8, Hammurabi's Code, but this is the different Babylon, almost 1,000 years in the future, and I want to make you a Babylonian expert. So, you've heard that name, Babylon. It means splendor. It means sin. But the real story is quite dramatic, much more detailed, how an empire is going to get built on fear, but replaced with splendor. It's King Nebuchadnezzar. He creates that city with the legendary wonder of the ancient world. You've heard of the Hanging Garden. So this is lesson number 18 in your ancient history course. We're stepping into that story of the Babylonian Empire and ask some big questions to discover how it shapes history and how it still shapes your journey. So first, we will learn the Neo-Babylonian Empire, how it rises from the ashes of its hated enemy, the Assyrians. Second, you can discover the incredible cultural, architectural achievements of Babylon in this new time period under King Nebuchadnezzar II. Third, let's reveal the struggles that almost end this culture and just see that tragic conflict between Babylon and the kingdom of Judah that led to the destruction of Jerusalem. And finally, you'll have a bonus look into Babylon's rapid collapse and how the Persians treat things very differently. There's a lot of powerful truth in this lesson, and so by the end, you will level up as a classical scholar in understanding what is Babylon. I'm Mr. Hull, and this is Ancient History. If you are coming here from Lesson 17, the Assyrians, you're probably glad to know that the bully is finally going to get what they deserve. For 3 long centuries, the Neo-Assyrian Empire, that was Lesson 17, is the bully of the ancient world. They reigned with terror. Their armies were relentless, and their kings literally carved pictures of their brutal conquests onto palace walls so everybody could see. Now, how do you think ruling through fear works in the long run? Is that a winning strategy? An empire built on fear. Look through history, it's eventually going to create an alliance of your enemies, that despise you so much. You know, there's nothing you offer other than fear, and people are going to unite against you. The desire for vengeance and justice. So this is going to go wrong for the Assyrians, because by the late 7th century BC, finally you see a chance, an opportunity for the alliance that's formed against the bully, the Assyrians. It's actually between the Medes. So we have to look at the map way over in the Zagros Mountains, beyond Mesopotamia, where we've been studying for so many of these lessons at Classical Kingdoms, the Medes, and check out that map of Iran, the area of Iran, Persia. Persia, it's coming, the Medes. So the Babylonians are the same region from the last time we saw Babylon, the city, in Mesopotamia. This is a new Babylonian group. They're led by a rebel king, Nabopolassar, in 612 BC. Armies are going to combine in this alliance, and they're going to pull off the unthinkable, capturing and utterly destroying this unconquerable Assyrian capital of Nineveh. And it feels like it happened so fast. Nineveh is destroyed. This is the end of Assyrian dominance in this region and really anywhere, and pretty much forever. Assyrians are not coming back. But how do you build an empire next? Like, what are you going to do? What do you offer that's different? You're less mean than the Assyrians? Nabopolassar is the architect of this new empire. What's he going to do? What do you do when you want to start an empire? And you've got a power vacuum. You've got no more Assyrians. He knew that it could not be built on terror the way the Assyrians were doing it. So the new strategy, let's call it piety. Piety, restoration, cultural splendor. What is piety? He's going to bring back religion, the gods. He wants to be a devout servant of the gods. In Mesopotamia, does this sound familiar? Did Hammurabi use the god Marduk? So let's see what we can do if we're going to bring piety, that religion, the restoration, the cultural splendor, and create a new empire or a new society. See if you can make it an empire, because the Babylonian, we got to rebuild. So Nabopolassar looks back to Hammurabi. He sees this great lawgiver who had made Babylon the first time into the center of a mighty empire with no real successor after that. So Hammurabi's empire does not carry forward. And now it's more than 1,000 years after the fact. So why don't we restore those ancient temples? Why don't we bring back what was working, what was going well, the traditions? And now, how about framing this new rule, the reign, the sovereignty into this golden age and restore Marduk, the patron god? Marduk is back. That's the piety part, right? And this empire is going to be built with divine favor, right? Not just fear and conquering. So Marduk is back. I guess it's like a mascot. Do cities still have patron gods anymore in this world? It's changed so much. But if I make a college football analogy, college football on a Saturday, people can go crazy for their mascots. It really creates an identity, and I think there's a little truth to it here with Marduk coming back as the patron god here. And I guess it's like a classroom teacher. I'm a teacher since the 90s. Do you want to just have this place controlled and gripped by fear? Or do you want a mascot? Because Nabopolassar is bringing Marduk back, which happens to be this pencil holder that I had since the 90s. And it was on my desk. And so kids it turned into Marduk. And yeah, a little bit of a mascot. And kids would steal it quite a bit. So I don't know. Obviously wasn't ruling by fear. But neither is Nabopolassar. And that is the point here. He is using Marduk and culture and something that everybody can buy into as we say goodbye to the Assyrians and say hello to this new Babylonian era. And maybe it can become an empire. So next for Nabopolassar is his son, Nebuchadnezzar II. He ruled for 43 very stable years. And that's a long time. Obviously the stability, but also the health of the guy, and some money that he was able to spend. Because if you had some money to spend, what would you spend it on in Babylon? What could Babylon look like if you transformed it into one of the wonders in the ancient world? Really saw it as a leading city, a fortress with a beautiful sanctuary. But how do you make a story come off of a building? Do you just build big? Or could you find a way to build with meaning? So let's start with the city's main street, the processional way. He lines it with glazed brick reliefs, 120 striding lions. That is the sacred animal of the goddess Ishtar. Now, to walk through the city and the processional and all these striding lions, that is going to fill you with a sense of awe. And if you're part of this polytheistic culture, you're going to feel the divine power because of this and the connection and the unity. The most spectacular part is going to be the Ishtar Gate, which we can still see. The Ishtar Gate towers and is covered in brilliant blue glazed bricks. It's made to look like precious stone, the lapis lazuli. It's adorned with hundreds of reliefs of sacred animals, wild bulls from the storm god Adad, and the dragon-like creature for the Marduk. The Marduk. And it's not just paint. So this is best craftsmen, the Babylonian craftsmen. They're perfecting a technology of glazed brickwork. They're adding minerals into the glaze so that when you fire it, have you done this in art class? You know, what glaze turns into after the fire. And it's like hard, like a glass coating, kind of. It's brilliant and it's permanent. Now let's look at the central conflict. And let's hear from biblical authors about this. Because next to Marduk's temple was the city's ziggurat, Etemenaki. And we mentioned this before. Etemenaki, a colossal 7-tiered structure that could have been 300 feet high, making it one of the tallest structures in the ancient world. The Great Pyramids over 400. But to the Babylonians, it was a sacred connection to the heavens. Does this ring a bell with the biblical connection? The temple of the foundations of heaven and earth, where you can make a name for yourself as you approach divine status. Now, this was the story, a symbol of dangerous human arrogance, not a virtue, hubris. They're really pushing the Tower of Babel as a way to make a name for themselves. It's a prideful attempt to storm the heavens. And that's going to invite divine judgment. If you're familiar with this story, this came from Babylon, probably, we think. And have you tried to build some incredible structure? Kids, a lot of times with the marshmallows and the spaghetti, and how tall can your tower go? I know in 5th grade, we tried to build bridges out of toothpicks and glue and see how much weight that you could have. You know, it's that competition with other builders. How can you be the best? And Babylon is kind of heading down that way again. We bring this up, the story from the past Babylon, because that's the direction we're heading with Nebuchadnezzar again. This will not be a pious city. It's going to be a sinful city. The prideful direction that Nebuchadnezzar heads in, it shows you it's an echo of that sinful history of the past. But it's motivating people to keep building and try to be the biggest and the best. So where is the Babylon of today? You know, with the street, the lined lions, the sense of awe and the tall structures, you know, trying to build this into something new, and the glazed brickwork, the scene that Ishtar's Gate would have been a marvelous scene. But forget tall buildings. Nebuchadnezzar's most famous, most mysterious project was actually a gift. This brings us to the legend of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the wonders of the ancient world. His wife, Amethyst, Nebuchadnezzar's wife, she came from where the Medes were from, the mountainous lands. There's all kinds of spectacular greenery. She missed the green hills. She missed the valleys of her homeland. She's in a flat, you know, kind of a desert with flooding rivers. So what do? How about try to build something out of your sun-baked landscape, and Nebuchadnezzar wanted to please her, so he creates an artificial mountain of gardens in the heart of the city. This legend is making one of the seven wonders that people would talk about and share. Like, it's a multi-level terraced structure that somehow pumped water up. We think maybe 75 feet up the sides of buildings, each with different terraces. You've got soil. You know, you've seen people watering their plants. Like, you can only imagine the complexity with soil needing so much water for these exotic plants and flowers and waterfalls. Would have looked like a lush green mountain suspended in the desert. Breathtaking spectacle. Everybody would want to see it. Babylon is the center of everything. You know, what an incredible place. Who wouldn't want to go to Babylon to see all this? It was an engineering marvel, and Nebuchadnezzar was proud to give this as a gift, to take the water out of the Euphrates River. And we think some form of a screw pump, like Archimedes' screw, maybe an early version of that. But that accomplishment, Nebuchadnezzar bringing Babylon to this level of wonder, what would he do next? And who wouldn't want to live here, right? Now, what city is like Babylon? If you could leave it in the comments. A city that's like Babylon with the splendor, the spectacular, tourist attractions or whatever. But it's also a city you don't really want to be a part of if you're put there in exile. You don't want to be that. So let's move on. In this third segment, Babylon is celebrating its power, its golden age, all of their accomplishments, small kingdoms out around the Babylonian authority. It's becoming an empire. Small kingdoms have to decide, what are you going to do? This is the situation now for the kingdom of Judah. Now, remember that the northern tribes of Israel have already been scattered. The Assyrians had already taken the 12 tribes of Israel, 10 of them scattered them, had already destroyed Israel. But Judah, and as part of the religious belief, Judah had remained faithful still, had not just merged with Canaanite gods and religion and culture. And now Judah is in a tougher place. And the kings of Judah are not able, like by the year 605, they're not able to overcome this struggle. The battle of Carchemish, the crown prince, Nebuchadnezzar, had won a decisive victory over the Egyptians. He's now surrounding the area of Judah. Some Jews are already being exiled, taken away. In 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar had enough army guys to lay siege on Jerusalem, to capture the king, to deport the king. 10,000 of the king's elites are all deported. And this is the warning to Judah. Stop rebelling or stop resisting. But a decade later, Judah rebels again. And Nebuchadnezzar's response is final. Ultimate, this time a brutal 2-year siege on Jerusalem, completely destroying it. And so the final year is 586 BC, a date you should remember, memorize, because this is the burning of the Holy Temple of Solomon. The temple that had so much value, so much gold, so much religious significance, and now it is being destroyed. King Zedekiah is captured, and he's forced to watch his sons executed, blinded, led away in chains. All of his people are exiled. And this is the end of the last tribe, the independent kingdom of Judah, the end. And are you wondering about the covenant again? You know, where this journey has been for the Hebrew people, and why are the Babylonians doing this exactly? Well, they had this tactic. This is to control their enemies, to exile their enemies, to make them sad they're not in their homeland. And there's a lamentation in Psalm 137 that reads like this: by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down, and there we wept when we remembered Zion. Zion, where the temple, where the glory, where the covenant is supposed to be. And it's over. This is where the story takes an unbelievable turn. In the ancient world, your nation's defeat meant that your God was weaker than the victor's God. These are always challenges of who the patron god of the city is. This should have been the end of the Hebrew faith. Think about it. But Hebrew prophets are offering a revolutionary interpretation of what's going on here, because they argued this catastrophe was not the defeat of God, but a judgment, a divine judgment. I had mentioned about the religious belief. Had they turned, had the Jewish people turned away, is the covenant just about land, or is the covenant supposed to be the promise of the goodness and the law and following in the faith? God is using Babylon as an instrument to punish Jews, to have justice for their sin, for their turning away. So this powerful idea is the message of the prophets, and it means that God's authority is not tied to the promise of the land or the promise of the temple or the security that honestly, in history, it was never secure. It's constantly, embattled. And here again, this universal struggle that these people are having, and the prophets are delivering this message. It is agonizing, though. The exile is agonizing, but it is transforming this ancient Israel to a nation with a clear identity, a nation now that has a text-centered religion. The scrolls, the prophet, the writings. This is the beginning of so much of this Old Testament, the Torah, that is shared and kind of in a special way now, because it's their memory of Zion, like the lament. So there are a lot of lessons kind of tie in with this, and more, even in the future. So classicalkingdoms.com has the full organization for the course and these different lessons that connect with what's happening here and what we're about to resolve, because we've just got the Jews in exile sitting in Mesopotamia, which is not their home. They're in a culture of Babylon, which is not their culture. It's not their religion, but the prophets are speaking to them the words from the scripture, from the scrolls, about their identity as chosen people of the covenant. But Babylon is still very powerful. King Nebuchadnezzar II, building a golden age. Does he have a legacy? Is he building a dynasty? Well, the mighty walls of Babylon are really masking kind of a brittle political foundation. Things are going wrong. Almost immediately after Nebuchadnezzar's death in 562 BC, this empire swiftly declines. He had a 43-year reign that was followed by a period of assassinations, coup d'etat, coup takeovers. What is a coup d'etat, right? He's got his own generals or successors fighting over, you could have a coup with an army, you could have a bloodless coup. It's like a civil war, but it's typically a challenge to the throne, a challenge to the power, to the sovereignty. So it's not stable, it's not good. It's an internal rot, political and serious problem. But another fatal problem is out there, because when Nabonidus, a usurper king, what is a usurper? Well, it's like the person that was trying to run the coup d'etat. A usurper challenges, undermines the throne. He made a disastrous religious error. The whole empire's ideology is built on Marduk, which is cultural. So again, with the college football analogies, you've got loyal people to this kind of mascot, to the culture and identity Nabonidus aggressively promotes the moon god, Sin, S-I-N. And that's an alternative. That's his guy, his god. And this is seen as heresy. Heresy, what is heresy? A heretic, you're going against the religion. Heresy is against the religion. And this is culturally strong to the Babylonians. But the priests of Marduk are wealthy and powerful. It's like the name, image, and likeness of your mascots and your officially licensed product. There's just a lot that goes into it. And here at Columbus, Central Ohio, the Ohio State Buckeyes, it's never going to change the mascot here. Brutus and the scarlet and the gray, but people are being told Marduk is out and the moon god is in. And there is anger. And there is anger growing against Nabonidus, who was a usurper anyway. He leaves the capital for 10 years, and during his absence, he is unable to perform the rituals of the crucial New Year festival. That's how the divine right to rule is established. And so he's creating deep, fatal divisions and rifts at the very heart of the empire, in their religion. Babylon is being consumed by internal conflict. All the while, a new power is rising in the east. The Persians. The Persian Empire. It's led by the brilliant Cyrus the Great. Cyrus is a master of propaganda. Aren't all these people to some degree? Well, Nabonidus is not doing a good job. Propaganda, messaging, marketing, advertising. Cyrus the Great has portrayed himself not as a conqueror, but as the chosen instrument of Marduk, the instrument of Marduk to liberate Babylon from the heretic king. And this message resonates, especially since the rich priests are going to join with Cyrus the Great. He has plenty of new friends. And when the Persian army arrives in 539 BC, the city falls with barely even a fight. It was like a political implosion. It was liberation. And that means liberation for all of the inhabitants. What could you carry forward from that lesson? What kind of wisdom and understanding of virtue and helping people? Because Cyrus, look at what the Persians do. It is revealing a timeless truth that a nation or even a person, they've got core identity. They've got purpose. And Cyrus the Great introduces the new model of rule. We see it on the Cyrus cylinder. The Cyrus cylinder. He records this policy of acceptance and religious tolerance. He was using the story of Marduk, but with religious tolerance, he looks and he says, what are Jews doing in Babylon? Why is the nation of Judah here? Free them. Allow them to go back. He allows these deported peoples, the oppressed people of the Babylonian Empire that's now gone, return. Go back to your homelands. Go back to your gods. Worship the God of Abraham. His policy not only allows the people of Abraham, the people who follow the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Your Babylonian exile is over. And we're going to help you rebuild your temple. We're going to get they had a bunch of Lydian coins. They had a bunch of gold from where the Lydian coins were made, and that Lydian gold is going to be a part of the temple again. He was very generous. This empire that destroyed the nation of Judah, this empire that destroyed the Jews, is now defeated. And the conqueror is now the liberator. In so many different ways, the mighty Babylon, the sinful golden city, the wonder of the ancient world is vanished. It's lost its way. But the Jews, the Judah people, the exiles, who had lost everything, had their time in exile, They had their prophets telling them who they were, reminding them with the scriptures, and now are heading back to Judah with the help of Cyrus the Great. Nebuchadnezzar is gone. Nabonidus didn't pull it off, and it was his misstep with the gods that gave Cyrus the Great the opportunity. And this is a historical event. This is a big turning point. And so now the Jews, Judah, in the future, the Romans will call it Judea, they're back, and they will have a new temple. So thank you for taking the time to learn something that matters in all of history. And that includes your history, some classical truth for your journey, because kingdoms rise and fall. Power fades, but virtue endures.